Okay, Constellation Training 2018-19, 6th weekend, February 2nd, 2019, Saturday, session 1. Okay. Hello, everybody. I was just thinking about our opening ritual. This is what I want to do. It's not exactly a ritual, but it's kind of using a little constellation exercise, because this is what? Our last weekend. And you know, one of the things that the constellations work, I mean, this is something we should know, but American life frequently undermines or causes us to forget, which is that beginnings and endings matter, right? Yep. They need to be acknowledged. You know, don't ghost people, say goodbye, you know, these kinds of things. If a friend's father dies, go to the funeral, right? You know, if a longtime employee is leaving the job, you need to take them out to lunch. These are they're just important. They serve the good order and rhythm of life. I remember, just to sort of lift this up, I really learned this lesson in college when I was a really wonderful therapy group I was in at the clinic there for students whose parents were alcoholics. You can imagine how, you know, at 18, 19, 20, how life-saving just being able to acknowledge that. And graduation was coming up for a bunch of us. And, you know, it's just part of the topic in the room. What are you doing for graduation? And none of us, our families, were coming up. And we all went, yeah, it's, you know, it's not a big deal, right? The therapist, who was usually very nice, kind of smoke started coming out of his ears. And he said, graduation from college is really important. And if it's at all possible, you need to call up your families and tell them to get their asses up here. And I sat there and I went, oh my God, he's right. What is the story we're telling ourselves that this doesn't matter? And for some of those kids, the families coming wasn't going to be an option. It's just too dysfunctional family. But to acknowledge that graduation from college is a very big deal. It's a significant accomplishment. Often for the parents as well, who perhaps have paid their way or whatever. Yeah. So I always, that was a big learning for me. So anyway, here's what I want us to do. In just a moment, what I want us to do is just pair off, and we'll each take a turn. You will be yourself, and the other person will represent the you right before you started this class. So you can just say hello to the you before this 6-month experience. And then tomorrow we'll say hello to the other side of that coin. But for right now, let's just acknowledge that you've been on a journey. Okay? So let's pair up, and we'll just, you know, have about 5 minutes to, you know, report out to each other a little bit. Remember, when you are you, you're representing yourself. So follow your movements. Don't just inquire into the other person, but like you report out like, oh, you're making me feel nervous, or, oh, I'm so good to see you again, or whatever comes through. Yeah, right? So you can see what your relationship with this recent past self is like. Okay? So shall we just do it like this? The girls and me and, okay. So just stand across from each other.
Do we switch? Like,
yes, so you're going to do that, and then we'll stop and do another round. So each of you have the experience.
Maria represents my old self, and then she represents herself, and I represent her.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. So there'll be like an official kind of, that constellation is done. Drop the rolls, and then you'll do the second constellation. Okay. And I am available to be helpful. Let's just move just a little bit over, Jeff, just so that, no, you guys, you stay where you are. Okay. So shall I be your pass self?
Old me?
So, since you're not taking the course.
Yeah, but I'm going to do it too because I was a different person 5 months ago as well.
I mean, no. Representing you.
Yeah. No. So my first impression is that I have a tendency to kind of look at the ground, and it's a little heavy. It's not horrible, but it's a little heavy. When I check in with you, you look so bright and shiny. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's really bright and shiny. You feel much brighter and shinier than I feel. And what's your experience in this constellation so far?
Stay put. I don't know how to stay put.
I don't really stand good at anything.
What is it like to hear that? What happens for you?
Yeah. When you say that, it's for me.
Not really
I
sure what that
recognize
means,
that,
what to
I
do with
can-
that.
Oh my God.
Oh,
I
A little
feel
bit in my,
glad
hush, oh shit, I'm supposed to be getting something.
don't feel that much
Mm.
anymore. It's like I feel like
It's funny, from here in this role, I have a combination of a little bit of impatience and a little bit of amusement
and
of why does Jeff spin himself like that? He knows what he's experiencing.
actually, yeah.
Like there's this,
Yeah. Like a little
so take this for what it's worth. There's a sense over here of
anxiety. Kind of uncertainty.
I feel like you're hiding from yourself, and it's a little bit of an act.
How do you feel when?
Like it's not an
I hear
act,
that.
but it's a story or a run or
You're right.
No, it's like
that sort of thing.
it's almost like I recognize it.
And I'm not quite sure what gives me your past
I
self
know.
the authority to say that.
Knowing if you feel that.
But it comes with a lot of
affection. Which would have been different for you.
It's always
Question.
odd to me, like in the group, I think about, but when
Do you feel
something like this,
the same?
and like I'm on the spot,
No,
I'm
not
supposed to
much.
come up with something,
Yeah,
and it's just like
So
turn that switch off.
yeah.
always
It's but I'm
a higher
still
vibration
very
inside of
like
you that's filtering multiple
compared to me.
things.
You feel bright and
Like
shiny and clean.
I have emotionally
Like
trauma.
just your energy feels really like flowing and mine feels still pretty. And I have some judgment of myself about that, like feeling like I'm mucky or yeah.
I feel quite a bit more capable.
So it's nice to, from my point of view, to report this.
So when I hear you, I feel
Are you doing any comparisons around how the energy seems between the two of us? Or if you do, what do you notice, if anything?
Do you feel released? or just
I
sadness?
am really getting absolutely nothing.
Really, is that it's a little bit better?
No.
No?
But no, but it's not it's not negative. It's more like I acknowledge that I am where I am.
Which you've already said is not true because
No,
you've
yeah,
acknowledged
I think
the
the
feelings of being on the
I'm glad
spot.
I made
That's
it
all something.
3 steps up the ladder. I still not up the top, but
Yeah.
Part of the subtleties of representing is taking all the information as information,
a bit more capacity.
as relevant, and as not nothing.
Stick with it and stay with it and be with it. So that's good.
No, just in the sense that normally when I represent, I get,
Yeah.
and now I'm getting nothing.
Except you're getting everything you've already reported. So that's something too. Right. That shift. Okay. It seems like that's what we got. Okay. So if you guys, feel like you've got what you've got, it can be useful to literally switch spots.
Yeah.
So it's usually right before this course started.
Okay.
Practice.
So I'm over here in Lena before the course.
Figure out where you're looking. Like, you're looking up over there, and I'm like, oh, hello. Very aware you're not looking at me. What's going on over there?
There's I don't have an easy time facing you or anything. More like trying to see without being seen. Physically, I want to be really close to you, like almost like crawl under a
So
blanket.
as your teacher, I'm going to challenge you right now. Like,
But-
the option of not having
I have a
any
hard time
information is not an
acknowledging
option.
that. It's like
You just take it off the table. What's actually going on?
somewhere.
Obviously, you're having some experience
But
of
I
telling
think
yourself you're not having an
strong-
experience.
Emotion of
Right.
like fear or sadness. It's more like
Just going, you're looking over there and not at me. That's also
emotion.
information.
Like this is what I want to do because this is how I know what I know to do. Like this is how I do things. You know.
What's all that like? What do you notice?
But it's it doesn't feel bad or sad or anything. It's more like
Shy?
yeah, it's a little bit. It's more a sense of being mischievous, or more sense like I'm gonna hide. I'm not so I'm hiding. Nobody sees me, but I can see everything. You know?
I don't know what's going on.
It's almost like I don't want to be
Okay, there's nothing that I can.
seen because then almost I feel like I need to step
What's
up
the
to something where I
experience?
feel, no, I'm not going to go there. You do this, you know.
Okay, see, that's an experience.
Not useful.
No, it's actually useful because if you have a representation of somebody and you're feeling annoyed, the facilitator needs to know that.
There is like
If you self-censor out,
there's a
that's not
story,
useful information. Right?
but if I check in with deep down in me, there's no such thing
Well,
as
I mean, I wasn't getting
There's
annoyed.
like
I didn't
I'm
feel
very
like
clear
the,
honest.
kind of my reaction to.
You know, in fact, even I'm like, I know this is how I am. But there's an outside facade
And it's still
story of
useful.
like, no, I'm hiding and I don't want to be accountable. like I don't.
Mm.
And
I am curious about
it's
what
kind of
you're looking
interesting
at.
because it.
Nothing in particular.
Yeah. And then so seeing you there, out there in the open is like.
You're my peripheral.
It's like, yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm
I know.
peripheral.
I mean,
So that's
it's still a
information
bit
as
there's a
well.
desire thing. No.
But sometimes you step into a role, a dyad like this, and like, you just look at the person. That's what you do. So the role is
it's almost like a
completely
game.
not
It's
looking at
almost
the other
funny. You know,
person.
there is no such.
That's
There's
information.
no weirdness or insecurity or fear or anxiety. Nothing. There's more. There's more.
So
Like,
just
it's almost like
reporting
a
out.
habit. It's like
You are in my
that's what you do
periphery.
to stay safe. Or that's what you do to be okay.
Guess I'm a little
Right? You hide enough.
looking directly at you.
Disappear out of sight.
I think it might be that you know how to use my voice. And you're right, and that's I know who I am, but I don't know
I'll just move right here and let you look where you want to look.
who I am.
Because my first inclination was to like assert myself to get in your line of vision.
I felt very
You're going to see me. Damn
very
it.
solid.
Sorry?
I wasn't seeing you.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, I was seeing you, and my attention was on you,
And
but
yeah,
there was something about looking straight at you.
I don't
Yeah, and I guess what I wanted was for you to look straight at me.
um,
So instead, I'm going to not try and force
in
that
that sense that you said that
and let you look where you want to look.
there is a security, there is a firmness. I think you're
How's
right,
that for you?
because I know who I am very deep. But as I said, I don't know how to. In a new group, there's always
Yeah, how to put it out there.
Yes, yeah, a lot of being afraid of being judged. That's and but now I feel like
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, because I think from where I am and what I feel, this whole thing about not showing up in the open or fear of judgment.
So I think
It's
I'm
almost
getting
like
what I need.
it's a story.
You were about to say something.
There is no emotion behind it, not like fear or
It's fun,
yeah, it's like a made-up story. For whatever reason that happened,
This is more
probably
personal.
at some point in your life it might have been more true, like more reality, you know. But currently, it's just like this whole thing. Like
So
it's
I'm
almost
going to edit
public.
that out.
Oh,
for a
no.
moment.
You know, it's like an instinct reaction without like. Wait a minute.
And please,
Yes,
I got it.
you need to check the default settings.
okay, I'll let it be. Thank you.
Yes.
So before we dive into any, sort of morning check-in, anyone want to share at all about that?
I thought it was interesting because part of me almost felt like, oh, there's probably not that much difference between the two people, and there was recognition. Look, the old one, the new one, looking at the old one, but also acknowledgement. Yes, certain things have changed. That was good.
Is there anything in particular you're willing to share that seems to have changed?
Yeah, my level of anxiety and difficulty to stay put with emotions, not just pretend I do, but really stay put, being present, has increased. Like I can still feel these vibrations inside of me. It's like, oh, and I can make more of a conscious decision. That's okay. Just breathe through it, it's fine. So there's more awareness.
Okay.
Overall, how that starts, what it does, and how to manage it for me. So that's quite an improvement.
Okay. Excellent. Anyone else want to share? You're not required to share, but any sharing from.
Yeah, actually, for me, it was very interesting too because as soon as I stepped in my role of myself now, I felt so solid and firm and rooted and strong, you know. And when Kat was sharing what she was feeling as representing me 6 months ago, it was interesting because she was saying that there was a feeling of trying to hide, not to be public, not to be out there, but it was a sense, not a fear inside, or inside she was feeling very strong and secure, but it was like un cuento, you know, it was like a story that I was telling myself, and it makes sense. So I think it's my default when I'm in a new group, in new people, and just go in that kind of.
Yeah.
So I have to reset my
Default.
my
Default settings.
default.
Yeah.
But I think just going through these 6 months of processing a lot,
Right.
it's been very good for me, very good, because a lot of things have been reorganized, and just accepting my inner self, it's important, you know.
Right, as it is. Yeah.
Mm.
Good. Excellent. Jeff, I know we weren't having as much information, but anything you want to share about your experience?
No, not really.
Can I share what it just felt like to be your 6 month ago self?
Sure.
I just what my experience is, the past Jeff was that the current Jeff for me was astonishingly bright and shiny, like compared to me. That there is like, oh, so I don't know if that matches Jeff's experience of himself, but that was my experience. And it's interesting that mostly in my own, what I sort of got out of it was not forcing my past self to have to see or be dealing with her future self. Like it's not our job to be making it all right for our future self somehow. It's like, I don't know, just like we just got to kind of live our lives. Was what I got out of it. And the future will unfold from making decisions in the present. Okay. So I want to do some check-in with a little bit of context setting. First off, can we all agree to go out to lunch together tomorrow?
Yeah.
Just so we have that in our books.
Oh, we're not doing dinner? You didn't see the emails?
No.
Oh, sorry.
No, we have never received it.
Oh no, sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I sent out an email yesterday realizing that I have an obligation this evening that I didn't notice until a few days ago.
Oh.
And the Saturday night obligations are a bizarre thing. So the fact that there was a collision was not something I thought about. So my apologies to everybody. So I cannot do tonight, although you guys can if you want to, by all means, if you already have it in your books. But in terms of me, lunch okay tomorrow?
Yeah,
that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I do want you to, in your own way, to the degree that you're able to, be conscious that this is the last weekend and be in a slightly reflective mode about your experience over the last 6 months. And as I've said, if there's anything that you feel you want us to revisit or that we have not visited, to let me know. Even now, I can adjust things enough to address stuff. But time is ticking on that. So just being kind of a space of going, oh, wow, you know, what have I learned? What is this last weekend? Sort of like, if this weekend conspires to sum something up for you, be on the lookout for it, like the message or something. Okay. And we'll do a slightly longer checkout tomorrow evening. Okay. That's it on that. So just checking in. How are you today? How are you feeling? Any questions that you already have alive right now that you want us to address? How y'all doing? Anything, just check in and share. I will share that if you haven't noticed already, I am fighting a bit of brain fog. My perimenopause is kind of hitting me there. It's not the heat thing. I don't have that, which I guess I should be glad for. But it's been kind of like plowing through fog for about a week now. So to the degree that I feel a little spacey or ungrounded, just I ask for your forgiveness ahead of time. That brain fog is a real thing around different kinds of stuff. So, and otherwise, I am well and glad to be with you all this weekend. And I should say, Maria Elena asked, did everyone over here the Lily, just Lily's in Thailand? If she can, she'll join us. I wouldn't expect it. We had our last session this week, and she's fine.
Exploring life.
Exploring life. Just so you're not wondering, it's like, is she okay? She's fine. So anyone who wants to check in and share how you are, or questions, or what are you chewing on around constellations? What's going on?
Overall, I'm good. I'm a little worked too, to be expected after a month of January. I worked till 3 a.m. last night. A bit tired.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Couldn't do that.
In general, I'm a night owl. For
Yeah.
me, my height in concentration and focus starts around 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Oh my God, I'm just the opposite.
And then goes all the way into the night. So for me, it's much easier to take it easy in the morning and to get really active afternoon.
Yeah.
And the way I organize my business that really works that way.
Right. Yeah. That's the nice thing about being self-employed.
Yes.
You can match your own circadian rhythms.
Yeah. So overall, my life is changing again a bit. Regards to Constellation, I'm sitting right now. I already shared a bit, contemplating. I want to continue that. So that part is sure. I just don't think the next 6 months I will have much time. And but
Just for what it's worth, the advanced class is only 2 months.
I know.
Just to be clear, it's not a 6 month
okay.
commitment.
I'm going back and forth about it because one of my kids, my daughter, wanting to change her life around, wants a different school, and she needs tutoring and catching up. And she asked me if I can help her with this, which, part of me is like, do I want to focus on my path here, Constellation training, continue, and hire her a tutor, which she doesn't want. She wants me. Or do I give in to her and say, okay, I'll spend that time with you to get you up to path until you feel comfortable being with other people. And so that kind of discussion is running through me. And otherwise, I'm glad to be here.
Okay.
I noticed this morning, I think for almost any other event and obligation, I would have bailed out this morning. I barely woke up when the alarm clock rang, and it said, last week in Constellation with nice people. I don't go, even though good.
I know that on the minds of several people here was the meeting with your ex, as we sent you off into that on Sunday night. So just that I'm sure they would appreciate a word.
And
We
when-
even,
it
constellated you and tried to help you in this regard.
actually, it did
I'm
have.
sure it helped. The vibration felt much better when we were done with
Yes,
that
it did.
constellation.
Because the energy between the two of us. So one part was nice. Janine, his current wife, she was with us in the room, and that's always because it helps. And I really like her. So there's and it went well. I was much better capable of keeping the energy at a fairly medium level, not going into. And we were both able to make a really conscious effort to listen to each other. So what is really his concern, his desires, and what do I need? And so it went well. Yeah.
Excellent.
Overall, it went well. We're still in debating and discussing the follow-up, but that was to be expected. So.
Okay, good. Congrats.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
It is nice to feel resourceful around conflict.
Yes.
It just makes you feel like you can trust yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah. Another check-in? We can do the usual.
I can go. I'm very glad that I took this class. It's helping me so much in so many levels. And I find myself constellating. I'm doing little constellations.
Oh, good.
Yeah, with friends, and it's been very interesting. It's like I'm developing my own, because I see and I talk, and when I talk to people, I think, oh my God, this can be constellated.
That's great.
Everything can be constellated.
It's true.
Yes. So it's like I'm in a constellation mode, and it's so much up my alley. This mythology. It clicks with who I am. That I love it. I really do. And I get very passionate about talking about it. That when I met my friend and I was telling her about Constellation, and she wanted to do it. She wanted to know about it.
Awesome.
So it's been, and I'm very grateful for you for sharing your knowledge with us. I really am. So, and I feel much better, in a better space as a person, and hopefully, I'll become a facilitator.
Already are, apparently. Right? I mean, if you're doing little constellations for your friends and whatnot, then you're kind of you're owning it. Yeah. Maybe it's being slipped in a way that doesn't freak you out.
Yeah.
I mean, it will be an interesting stage the first time you actually ask someone to pay you. You'll be like, what? Oh my God. Expectations. Yeah. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Excellent. And Jeff?
Not really too much going on. I had a couple of friends express interest in doing Constellation, and so I'm kind of waiting to see if that'll happen and what it'll be like when it does, or if it does.
Good.
But not much else.
Okay. All of you, any questions present now, or themes or topics that you've been chewing on that we could either talk about now or make sure we bookmark for some time during the weekend? And I know Saturday morning is often not the time when those things are on the forefront of your mind, but just in case there's been something that's been particularly getting at you.
Feel there's something, but I can't put it in words to something that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, later maybe. It will come.
So here's the plan for the weekend, which is mostly practice, practice, practice. We are going to be a little thin on help this weekend. I've gotten one yes for after lunch today. So that means you're really going to be getting to practice with small groups of people. And maybe some one-on-one work might be a good match for that. But the themes that I have for you are two types of constellations that you may or may not ever do. But number one, there's a lot to be learned from them. And number two, they are out there. And so it's important for you to have some familiarity with these approaches. And for some of you, these approaches are going to end up being really your cup of tea. So that's really important to know. So for today, what I want to do is share with you the kind of constellations Bert Hellinger has been doing for the last 10 or 20 years. Has a bunch of different names. These days, they're calling it new constellations. It's been called movements of the spirit, soul. I can't remember. Anyway, to share that with you because it is quite different on the outside from the way he started out doing it, which is mostly the way we do it to a certain extent. And although none of us may ever do it as fully his way as he does it now, or mostly his wife these days, Sophie, there's a lot to be learned from basically Bert Hellinger's evolution with the form. And it keeps us in connection with the founder, so that's good too. So that's what I want to focus in on today, and I think you're going to find that really interesting. Most people go, "Ooh, that's really cool." Tomorrow, what I want to focus in on is what are generally called social issues constellations. So it's doing constellations not so much for a client with a problem, but to constellate an issue in society that is somehow relevant to a gathering, whether it's looking at gun violence or mental illness or the homelessness crisis in Oakland or whatever. And so it's not about, Joe coming in and wanting to fix his insomnia. It's exploring a social situation. There are a bunch of people out there doing this in really powerful ways. And it's a form that you can make use of as you overlap with working with communities, nonprofits, neighborhoods, people who are involved in issues of social justice and politics and stuff like that, which for some people is where they're at. They're working on social justice issues. So, I really enjoy participating in them. I am not good at leading them. This is something I've learned. So I'm gonna lead one with you guys because it's important to see what it's like. That's something else I just really encourage you guys to do, is to try forms or watch different forms and say, I've learned a lot from that, but it's not for me. It's not my strength, like I did with the past life constellations when I did them, and it was a train wreck. I'm really glad I did it, right? Okay, so these are, this is less about kind of constellation topics, like the interview and representing and stuff like that. This is more about ways of doing constellations that are important, that are out there, that you should be informed about, but which will also, by doing them, uncover, reveal more core constellation issues. Okay, so it's all part of the learning. Does that sound good for now?
Yeah.
Okay, and then just let me know, if there's something else we need to do. Just need some markers. You know what we need to do? Green one. I need to pee. So let's do that for a minute. We'll come back. It's not a long break, a short break, just to do that. I won't be able to relax.